What would you do if you discovered that you were being lied to, that you were being misled? Your time was being wasted. What if you discovered that the very same leaders who organized the white supremacist march in Charlottesville, Virginia, were also behind Black Lives Matter? What if you discovered that the very same leftist Democrat leaders who were behind Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, various black supremacist groups, also helped organize these white supremacists and Nazis at Charlottesville, Virginia, which were egged on by the local police there? How would it make you feel when you discovered that your socialist progressive professor, Hollywood celebrities, political party were just using your body, your strength, your voice, and manipulated your emotions to spread a lie, more fear, for racial division, hate, rage, bloodshed, so that you would be willing to give up the very thing that makes you free, prosperous, responsible, strong, decent, and independent and successful? Wouldn't you feel victimized and cheated, used, abused, lied to? How would you spend your time differently when you discovered that the entire purpose of the Charlottesville, Virginia riots were artificially manufactured for a divisive marketing material just to keep America racially divided, so that it makes it much easier for big government, centralized-minded leaders, both inside and outside America, to influence, control, and manipulate the average American, regardless of their race? Stay tuned for the proof and the evidence.
Hello, America. Aren't you tired of all of this racism you see in the campaign ads? In every election, you always have a candidate that says, that person's a racist. And they continually push an agenda that wants to impugn or project racism on the other candidate. It takes a racist to really create a racist ad like the one that a member of Mr. Nordstrom's campaign, the man who's running for governor, did. A Democrat who's running for governor, he decides to create an ad that had a person with a Dixie flag flying behind the truck, running down children who are Latino and or from a Muslim faith or Muslim religion with his truck. That's right. He was running down children with a truck in this ad, and then he had an Ed Gillespie bumper sticker in the back of it because somehow in the schizophrenic mind of the Democrats, they wanted us to think that because we create this racist ad, we want you to think that the other person is a racist because we create this straw man argument, a visual straw man argument, and we want to convince you that to associate with every single Democrat meme accusing the other person of racism, when you look at the Democrat policies, and they seem to be more detrimental to the black race and the Latinos and everything, when you look at the results and fruit. But because they're like Marxists and Leninists, Democrats are more interested in marketing. Successful marketing, if they can say a lie more and more over and over again, they'll make you think that the other person is a racist. And that is total perversion of truth. Total perversion. It's childish, in fact. It takes a dummy to create something like that and someone who is a racist. So you have this racist Democrat create a racist ad, and yet they want us to think that Ed Gillespie's are the racist? No, it doesn't work that way. In fact, it didn't work that way in New York City, when you had this terrorist who recently, this last week, mowed down a bunch of Americans with his truck after that ad was playing in Virginia. You see, the interesting thing is that this guy, Ralph Nordstrom, the Democrat who's running against Ed Gillespie, did not disavow the ad at all. He kept that thing running and running so people could see what the racist Democrat mind looks like. So people can see for themselves that the Democrat is a racist. Because they would put an ad where a white man is running down children. This comes from Ralph Nordstrom's campaign that he did not disavow.
Is this what Donald Trump and Ed Gillespie mean by the American dream?
So it was just a bad dream. What do you make of that ad?
Look, I think this ad is so over the line, is so egregious, and what it tells me is that the Democrats in Virginia and in other places have absolutely no messaging. You know, they want to instill fear in people when it doesn't exist. And so, you know, you see an ad like this that is targeting children, that shows that, you know, supposedly it looks like this driver is some type of racist because he's flying that flag and has the "Don't Tread on Me" in the front license plate. You know, this is really everything that's wrong with politics. This is everything that's wrong with the fear tactics of the liberal left, and they don't want to take credit for their racism, which is really what this is about. And if they had any ideas of how to make the economy grow again and how to put people back to work, that's what they'd be talking about.
So Corey Lewandowski a bit earlier talking about this negative attack ad against Republican Ed Gillespie. Gillespie is running for governor of Virginia against the Democrat Ralph Northam. Here is part of the ad that shows minority children being pursued by a man in a pickup truck. Rich Lowry, editor of National Review, Fox News contributor Adrian Elrod, former Democrat director of strategic communications for the Democrat Hillary Clinton. Good day to both of you.
Hi, Bill.
The ad ends in a nightmare, and the child is in bed, comforted by his parents. Rich, you saw it, and you thought what?
It's reprehensible. It's disgusting. It should be taken down. Everyone associated with it should apologize to Ed Gillespie. Ed Gillespie is a public-spirited guy. He denounced the Charlottesville riots immediately. He is in no way a racist or has any animosity to people of color. So this is just absurd, disgusting, and I just don't have words for it.
Adrian, have they taken the ad down, or is it still out?
No, they haven't taken the ad down, and it's still up, and it's going to keep running
Should
until
they?
No, I don't think they should at all.
Rip.
No, I don't think they should at all.
Rip.
No, I don't think they should at all.
Rip.
All right, we are back with a Fox News alert. ISIS now claiming it was behind that bike path attack in New York City this week.
The terror network calling killer behind the wheel a soldier of the caliphate. Brian Yanis live at the scene with new information this morning. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, Jackie and Rob. Behind me, a memorial, 8 crosses for the 8 victims of the terror attack along the bike path here, as New York City responds to protected citizens installing dozens of concrete barriers like these overnight to prevent vehicles from driving onto the path. Some are small, others are large, placed diagonally at intersections of the bike path along the west side of Manhattan. This, as Reuters reports, ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attack in its weekly Al Naba newsletter Thursday, though ISIS did not provide any evidence. The group called the attacker one of its caliphate soldiers. Investigators say suspected terrorist Saifullah Saipov was radicalized in the United States, inspired to attack by ISIS propaganda.
Now this terrorist emulates a Democrat, a racist Democrat ad, and begins to run down people with his truck and hurts real people. And the fact that the ad had a Muslim girl in it getting run down inspired this guy, obviously, to do the same thing. Why would you want to disavow it now? Because reality bites, doesn't it?
And in the wake of that horrific attack there, President Trump is doubling down on efforts to reform immigration. The commander-in-chief tweeting, "I am calling on Congress to terminate the diversity visa lottery program that presents significant vulnerabilities to our national security." He also called for an end to chain migration.
We want a system ultimately that's merit-based, so we can bring in people that will help our country, grow our country, and be safe for our country.
Chain migration is when immigrants enter the country legally to be united with a relative already living here in the U.S. The president says the New York terror suspect used it to bring 23 people into the country. And this disturbing political ad shocked the nation, and the Democrat it supports says he didn't sign off on it. But now there's new proof his campaign may have been involved. Virginia gubernatorial hopeful Ralph Northam denies approving the ad, which shows a truck chasing minority children. But finance reports show the campaign received an in-kind donation for media purposes from the Latino Victory Fund, the group behind the ad. To qualify as an in-kind donation, the candidate for campaign must request or suggest it.
Ahead, Democrats in Virginia have pulled that ad that depicts Republicans as killers in the wake of this week's terror attack. A Greg monologue coming up next.
From a real terror attack to a fake one, behold the worst ad of all time, aimed at Virginia's Republican candidate for governor, Ed Gillespie, painting his supporters as homicidal predators bent on killing kids. It's called American Nightmare.
Is this what Donald Trump and Ed Gillespie mean by the American dream? Latino Victory Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Well, that's despicable, but that's not even the worst part. When the Latino Victory Fund saw that their ad might cost the Dems the election, they pulled the ad citing recent events. Those were their words. So they used the terror attack as an escape hatch for their heinous smear. It's classy. Fact is, they pulled the ad not out of sensitivity, but because they looked idiotic for choosing the wrong villain in their advertisement, i.e. half of America. They must have been bummed that it wasn't a deplorable in a truck mowing down innocents in New York, but a jihadist. The commercial turned out to be a child's dream at the end, but it was really a left-winger's fantasy, which viewed Republicans as evil racists. But the left has pushed this narrative for decades. It's not that you're wrong, but that you're evil, which allows them to destroy you. It's the inevitable conclusion of identity politics. You divide, then you ruin. It's grotesque, but it's what they do best. So keep at it, Dems. I think you just elected Gillespie, and perhaps Trump in 2020, then Pence, then Nikki, then Rubio, then Ivanka, then Donald Jr., then Eric. In 2052, it'll be my turn.
Yay, Greg.
Yeah. All right, Dana, this could be the first political ad that's elected its opponent.
That's interesting because Jesse said in the commercial break, imagine if a third-party group sank your chances of winning. So if you're like Ralph Northam, even though they embraced the ad from the Northam side, and they didn't, and they disavowed it later. During the 2016 campaign, Hillary Clinton said she knew she had really stepped in it when it was reported that she had called Trump's voters the deplorables. But this is taking like the deplorables and making it so much worse.
Jesse basically declared war on half of America. If you don't vote for a Democrat, you drive around in a pickup truck, killing minority children.
I know. And this was a hate crime of a political ad. And they lied about their excuse for pulling it. They were for the ad before they were against it. Dirty ads work most of the time, but if it's too dirty, it's going to backfire. And this is backfiring, and it's galvanizing Gillespie supporters. It all started when Gillespie came out with a tough MS-13 ad. And because MS-13 has been feasting on Virginians, and they said his opponent, Northam, was okay with sanctuary cities. So this Latino group comes out, and this is a return volley. And to use minority child actors as prey for a racist truck driving white male Gillespie supporter is so unprofessional, so inappropriate. And to have the aerial shot like it's a crime scene in progress, and you notice the decal of the "Don't Tread on Me" Tea Party thing and the Confederate flag, and then to sting out with the racist torch-holding, Confederate supporters. The whole thing is just sickening. What I think's happening is, could you imagine if Romney in 2012 came out with an ad of black gang member bicycle riding men menacing little white children in the neighborhood with some rap music underneath, and then maybe a Reverend Wright soundbite, and then stinging out with Romney for president? That ad would be so denounced by every American in this country. This is the exact same thing, but reverse. And it's sad because, big picture, Democrats would rather fight Trump than fight MS-13 or fight ISIS. They show more bloodlust for impeaching the president than they do for cleaning up their own streets of gang members or trying to do whatever they can to eradicate ISIS.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've worked on races where you've seen an opponent just run a smear ad like this, and it actually backfires. I mean, they tried in 2014 to basically pin something on the candidate I was working for that he had nothing to do with. And it was so despicable that even the mainstream media, both nationally and locally, had turned against our opponent. And that was really the change in tide of polling for our candidate as well, because voters realized that that candidate went way too far. And so I agree with you, Jesse, where I actually think this will hurt Ralph Northam. And apparently this was in response to the fact that he is not connecting with Hispanics to the degree. I think he's even doing worse than Hillary Clinton was. So he's having some real problems connecting to minority voters. And so this was a clear and desperate way to try to generate that support.
Juan, can I just, the ad's bad enough, but isn't it kind of gross that they used a terror attack to sneak away from it? I mean, they saw when that terror attack happened, they go, this is it. This is how we get out of this. Yeah. That's what grossed me out.
Because he wanted to create racial division. You see, with the Democrat, it's not issues don't matter. It's about creating division to be a whistle call to get the blacks into voting booths to vote against the Republican. Even though the Republican has great issues and great ideas to help every American, regardless of race, and Gillespie has a program to help all Virginians have good security, because he's trying to stop MS-13 gangs from attacking people. Can you imagine if MS-13 grew and grew such that we worry about getting your head cut off and being put for ransom and being kidnapped and things? This is why many Latinos left South America, left Mexico to come to freedom in America, because they didn't want to be chased by these gangs like that. It's not something they want. They want a country that's free and safe. But what this guy named Ralph Northam wants to do is he wants to push this agenda that says, no, we got to protect MS-13.
Fox News alert: 3 alleged gang members in this country illegally now behind bars after the murder of a Virginia high school senior. Danny Centino Miranda was shot twice in the back as he waited for the school bus Friday. Police think a 17-year-old MS-13 member pulled the trigger. He's charged with second-degree murder. 2 others, 20-year-old Henry Vasquez and 18-year-old Juan Moises Zelaya, also picked up for firearm possession. Police say both are illegal aliens.
During the 8 years of Barack Obama, thousands and thousands of young people came to America unaccompanied by an adult. Unfortunately, because many of these minors didn't have a home to go to, they were being used by Marxist and leftist groups to be used to push leftist propaganda and communism into America. And some of these young people were even used into gang activities. They were being recruited into MS-13 because many of these young people were looking for a family. It was a socialist progressive intent to overwhelm the immigration system in America. And the objective of the socialist progressive Democrat was to use these youth who are growing up into adults as a way to increase the population rolls of Democrats in Democratic control areas, to give the Democrat more representation power. This is why the Democrat Party doesn't want to do anything about sanctuary cities, because it gives them more representation power in Congress. Therefore, those Americans who are killed as a result of being murdered from illegal immigrants is just the collateral damage it takes for the Democrats to gain power in America. In many cases, it could be said that MS-13 is far greater a threat than ISIS, because they're in every city. In fact, they're in about 42 different states in America or more, and they heavily recruit young people, especially those young people who came across the border during the Obama administration when they were unaccompanied by an adult. We need to change our policies in America, because the primary mission of MS-13 is the murder, and so many innocent lives of Americans need to be protected. And that's why we should celebrate and be thankful that we have a president that is interested in not only protecting American lives, but even the lives of the immigrants who come to America, and also those people who are legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. These people need to be off the street.
And they will accuse that the Republican is saying that all Latinos are MS-13. That's a lie. Just like it was a lie when Democrats said that Trump was racist, and they made all these terms and stuff, because they want to create the racial division as a dog whistle to scare the black people into the voting booths to vote for the Democrat. They wanted us to vote, and then they want to scare the Latinos and to go and to vote for another Democrat who can rule over them and doesn't care about the issues, never cared about solving a single problem, never desired to change and modify the education system, but they kept the schools dumber and dumber and dumber, lower and lower, so the kids continually never succeeded. Because all the Democrat cares about is power and control. They divide and conquer, and he's more interested in power and control. This is what they do. They are the ones that are the experts of racism, because they're the party that originated from racism. Again, as you know, many people know this already, that the Ku Klux Klan was the terrorist organization of the Democrat Party. And they will never forget that. It's the truth. The Democrat Party used the Ku Klux Klan as their terrorist organization. They keep blacks in their place to force the blacks, if they did get a chance to vote Democrat, so that they keep the whites in power. That's your white power right there. Ralph Northam wants to promote all that kind of thinking again.
The reason why Ralph Northam was more concerned about creating racial division is because he doesn't have any issues to stand on that he can defend. Ralph Northam is incapable of debating the issues before Ed Gillespie. Stay tuned for proof that the white supremacists, as seen in this racist ad created by Ralph Northam, were actually organized by a Democrat and the Democrat Socialist Progressives in order for the Democrats to project their own racism and hate onto their political opponents.
Look at the economy in Virginia right now. High taxes, overbearing taxes. Every time you get your paycheck, you're reminded about what you did by voting for a Democrat, because you voted to raise your taxes and get less and less outcome as a result of it, because you were tricked into listening to their propaganda. Their Marxist, Leninist, make Russia great again propaganda. That's what you were looking at. That's what you were listening to. You weren't interested in talking about and learning about the issues and solving real problems like Ed Gillespie is. You're interested in listening to the dog whistle, listen to your socialist Marxist professor who gets paid high bucks to trick young people into voting Democrat every time. Or listen to your favorite celebrity who's paid high bucks on the side to get you to voting for Democrats. All these power brokers here trying to influence you to vote Democrat. Isn't it amazing? What kind of cabal is this? You know, got the richest of the rich promoting Democrat all the time, creating fear, creating tension. Why? Because they want to promote Marxism and communism. Look them up. Look up the various celebrities, and you'll see that they're all socialists. They are more interested in making Russia great again. Talk about a conspiracy, a collusion. The Democrat Party is a living, walking, breathing Russia collusion strategy. After they had assassinated John F. Kennedy for acting more like a Republican, and the communists basically took over the Democrat Party after John F. Kennedy's assassination. We know now that that's exactly what happened. As this stuff is getting leaked out to the public now, we understand that it was not an accident that during the 2012 campaign, or DNC convention 2012, when they were celebrating all of America's Navy, what was the backdrop behind them? It was Russia's Navy, Russian-made ships, Russian destroyers, Russian planes behind it as a backdrop, and the Democrat National Committee. It was Russia's announcement that they now have total control over the Democrat Party. It was a backdrop announcement that that's all Russia now, that the DNC is controlled by Russia. It's no wonder that Hillary Clinton wanted to create the illusion that Trump was hooked up with Russia somehow, because somehow she lost and it must be Russia's fault because Russia always supports the Democrat candidate, because we always are going to appease their interests. We're going to produce all the green energy so that Russia can control the oil industry throughout the world so they can set energy prices. We want to talk about get rid of our nuclear weapons and nuclear power so that Russia can control all the uranium in the world, can make the decisions on who gets the bomb and everything like that. The Democrat Party is falling into all that stuff. It was the Democrats and the hippie movement that listened to all that propaganda, that music about war, about peace, 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 and they were against the war when we were fighting against communism. It was now they said, oh, because the Democrat Party is so beholden to Russia's interests, they didn't want us fighting communism. No, Russia wants communism. So they had to use the Democrat Party like a glove to manipulate them like a puppet, They all, oh, no, we got to stop fighting communism. Jane Fonda and all of them who lied and lied, who would even tolerate the abuse and the sexual molestation of Mr. Weinstein because he gives so much to the Democrat Party. And so they had to ignore all that stuff, all because it's a Democrat cabal of perversion and decency that's trying to demoralize our country, just like was in the Soviet art of brainwashing, just like what the communists wanted to do within America, is to demoralize us. So while Hollywood demoralizes us, destroys the family, attacks relationships, creates all this perversion in there, they're also creating a diversion by wanting us to vote for more socialist candidates who are going to do Russia's bidding and interest. There you go. That's your Russia collusion. And now we want to talk about this other collusion that just occurred too, with this Jason Kessler. Did you know that the Charlottesville, Virginia riots that took place between Black Lives Matter and these white supremacists organized? The white supremacists, well, guess who organized them? A guy named Jason Kessler. Who is Jason Kessler? Jason Kessler was a member of Occupy Wall Street. In fact, he fought with Obama. He voted for Obama all 8 years. He wanted us to vote for Hillary all the time that she campaigned. But once Hillary Clinton lost, once this Occupy Wall Street or Democrat progressive lost, all of a sudden he transforms himself and masquerades into a white supremacist. He organizes all these white supremacists to protest a little statue which doesn't do anything to anybody. It's just a piece of rock, a person standing on it. They don't want us to focus on policies. They want us to focus on a piece of rock on a pole somewhere. They want us distracted. So then he creates this argument with this vice mayor, a racist, Black Lives Matter racist, person who made racist concepts about whites. And then what does Kessler do? He mounds up a rioting bunch of white supremacists to attack that vice mayor, wants him to step down and blah, blah, blah. And then they create this racial riot, which now Democrats can use as a meme to attack any Republican that happens to be with Donald Trump and trying to keep America safe again, trying to stop MS-13 and socialism and ISIS. Oh, if you're for stopping ISIS, the Democrat says, then you must be for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is this and that. Well, that's what the Democrats want to do. So they want us to vote for more Democrats who are going to weaken our borders and increase terrorism in our country, invite more potential terrorists in our country. They want us to do that, then make America safe again, regardless of what race you are, regardless of what your economic, social position is. They want us all divided. Isn't that a shame? That old Democrat Party, them, trying to create more racism. In fact, to prove to you that Jason Kessler was a member of Occupy Wall Street, I've put together some information and some videos to prove that to you. Wants to use in all the campaigns in America against Republicans and congressional districts. They're going to put these white people with tiki torches and blood and soil, because they want that in your mind when you're voting in the voting booths, so you can think that it was a Republican that did it. But in reality, the person that created all that stuff was a Democrat. That's right. The Charlottesville, Virginia white riot, you could say, was created and organized by a Democrat. Occupy Wall Streeter, formerly Black Lives Matter supporter, who masqueraded into a white supremacist. That's your Democrat Party. That's your party of division, divide, demoralization, to destroy. That's what they're all about. They have no issues. They can't debate the issues. It's all about dividing our country and trying to make Russia great again. Wouldn't you rather make America great again, regardless of your race? But you see, the Democrat Party cannot exist except with racism. They can only exist if there's racial division and manufacture racial hostility. They don't exist. They don't win any elections other ways. Watch this content right now. You're going to see for yourself that this whole incident in Charlottesville was all a manufactured racist event created by Democrats so they can create another meme of racism to attack others, their political opponents.
All right, let's get straight to it then, Jason. Break it down for us. Who is Wes Bellamy? What did he say? You know, take it from the beginning. And how did it lead you to spearheading this movement against him?
Okay, so basically, I usually don't pay very much attention to local politics. I like national politics and big issues. But there's this vice mayor of Charlottesville, where I live, who is just totally obnoxious, Black Lives Matter racist. Everything he does is race, race, race. He never is working on fixing roads or water purity, anything like that. What he does is he's trying to spend $700,000 to move this Robert E. Lee Confederate statue from the park downtown. He has also been in the news for boycotting a UVA lecturer named Doug Muir, who put a Facebook post where he said Black Lives Matter is racist. And this guy went crazy and he boycotted the guy's restaurant and so forth. So I thought, well, let me look into Wes Bellamy's social media and see what he has to say. And I went onto his Twitter and I searched some keywords. I searched white, I searched black. He had so many nasty things to say. Like he said, white women are the devil. He said he hates black people who talk white. He said, my favorite thing about being down south is seeing the look on the faces of little white men when they have to look up to a black man. He also said, it ain't rape if she moans, talking about having sex with a sleeping woman. It's just ridiculous. But despite these far left city councilors being so against Trump for things he said, which were not nearly as bad, they won't even condemn what he said, and the media is trying to cover it up.
So you discovered these tweets, and again, we showed some of them there in the article. We're putting them up on screen now. Absolutely vile, vulgar tweets. This guy is a vice mayor. You draw attention to this. I guess the media picks it up. Tell us what happened between...
This is not... Turn it off, please. You're going on your time. Are you good? Okay, can you turn that off, please? Turn it off, please.
My name is Jason Kessler, and I'm here on behalf of over 900 petitioners to demand that Wes Bellamy be removed from his office as a counselor for the city of Charlottesville. The anti-woman, anti-white, and pro-rape statements, which he assigned to the official Twitter account of the vice mayor, have disqualified him from position on council. When you Google the name Wes Bellamy, it is now synonymous with vile and derogatory hate, unacceptable for an emissary of our city. Frankly, the lies and misinformation coming from both Bellamy and Zakos are unbecoming of the office. It has been well documented how Zakos at first issued a statement about Bellamy being hacked, then deleted and issued a second statement claiming that the information I had provided was false. When the veracity of my article was proven by Cab Daily, Daily Progress, and the Washington Post, among other news outlets, Ms. Zakos finally fell silent. Silent on "it ain't rape if she moans." Silent on a gay slur. Silent on "white women smell like assault charges in deli meat." And many other outrageously racist and offensive statements. In fact, Ms. Zakos and the other counselors have betrayed their every liberal progressive value to secure the incestuous relationship between Ms. Zakos and her disgraced protege. Amen. Mr. Bellamy and his allies continue to assert the easily falsifiable lie that his statements were made in his early 20s. I know the vice mayor is not a math teacher, but he used to be on the Board of Education. So let's see if you can follow some simple arithmetic. He is now 30 years old. All of the tweets were made in the last 6 years, the most recent coming in 2014. That means all of the tweets were made between the ages of 24 and 28. Not early 20s by even the most charitable standards, despite what you tell the Washington Post. Even one of Bellamy's tweets would have forced his resignation a week ago if he were a white man. Amen. Consider this tweet which Bellamy wrote just a few years ago while employed as a teacher in Albemarle County school system. LOL. The funniest thing about being down south is seeing the look on the faces of little white men when they have to look up to a black man. Imagine if the reverse had been true. A white man who in a pretty black city like Detroit is employed by the school system and writes, "My favorite thing about being in the ghetto is seeing the look on the faces of little black men when they have to look up to a white man." Wes Bellamy is a black supremacist and a rape fetishist and, among other things, Wes Bellamy...
You're finished. Okay. All right, everyone. Okay, now we're on to John. John, sir, your time is over. Your time is over. All right, did we find Richard Aguilar? Okay, John Fouts.
I would like to report something that I just heard.
Okay, if you could hold on 1 second.
I just wanted to alert our police officers that the previous speaker just looked at Mr. Bellamy and said, "Your days are numbered." So I just want to put that on the
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us! Blood and soil! 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 Whose streets? Our streets! 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 Whose streets? Our streets!
Breaking news today. Man who organized racist Charlottesville riots has chilling connection to Obama. Here's who he is. What would you say about a white supremacist who supported a black president? Well, you'd probably say that he's not a very good neo-Nazi if that's the case. You see, white supremacists and their likes are totally anti-everyone who's not of clear and clean European descent, and no one who has other things mixed in is allowed to be accepted as an equal, much less a superior. They would not at all be down with the child of a Kenyan government official and a Hawaiian hooker sitting in the Oval Office. So if I were to tell you that one of these so-called white is right folks were actually an Obama supporter, you might want to know what was up with that. After all, it's highly unlikely that a person could go from avid Obama supporter to neo-Nazi over the course of a year. Especially if that person were a die-hard liberal. However, they might want to make the swing if there were a specific reason that it would help the liberal agenda, their true love, for white people in general and Trump supporters, in particular, look really bad. Of course, we know that liberals would never use underhanded methods to make themselves look better. However, they're not looking too great after this news about the instigator of the recent Charlottesville riots came out. It would be bad enough if these were just well-meaning but misguided wetties who thought they were doing the world a favor by flaunting their ignorance, but now the media has come out strong, taking every opportunity to say that these modern-day KKK members and neo-Nazis are basically President Trump's best friends, despite what he has to say about it. Now it looks like the whole thing was a surgical political strike, played out before our eyes. Via DC Whispers. Well, this is fishy. His name is Jason Kessler. He is the one cited as the organizer of the now infamous Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. The thing is, Mr. Kessler's arrival on the alt-right and/or white nationalist scene didn't occur until November 2016. That's right, Kessler didn't start his white nationalist activism until after Donald Trump won the White House. Prior to that, it appears he participated in the far-left, socialist Occupy Wall Street movement as noted by the far-left, George Soros-funded Southern Poverty Law Center. Rumors abound on white nationalist forums that Kessler's ideological pedigree before 2016 was less than pure and seemed to point to involvement in the Occupy movement and past support for President Obama. At one recent speech in favor of Charlottesville's status as a sanctuary city, Kessler live-streamed himself as an attendee questioned him and apologized for an undisclosed spat during Kessler's apparent involvement with Occupy. Kessler appeared visibly perturbed by the woman's presence and reminders of their past association. It also appears Mr. Kessler was actually a CNN on-site correspondent during the Occupy protests. These are being archived as it appears CNN is attempting to scrub its former affiliation with Mr. Kessler. Well, isn't that curious? There's no doubt that what happened over the weekend was a lethal cocktail of smart and stupid with a heaping helping of biased media coverage thrown in, just to make it go down smooth. The twist in the plot is that the smart, liberals, were playing the stupid, neo-Nazis and Antifa-like, in order to further their own agenda. This wasn't random, it wasn't just chance that these two sides clashed in an epic way that would grab the attention of the entire nation. The left has worked their tails off to make Americans believe that President Trump is a racist based seemingly just on the fact that he's not a minority. There are a couple of distinctions that are worth making though. For one thing, there is a huge difference between President Trump supporting the KKK and the KKK supporting Trump. We can control who we support but we can't choose who supports us. The president spoke out against violence on every possible front. But since he didn't actually bash all white people, apparently he's part of the white supremacist movement according to the left. So let's assume that these Nazi wannabes are die-hard Trump supporters. If that's the case, they feel that way just because he's white. You know, kind of like black Americans supported Obama just because he was black. Nobody thought it was a problem when black people were proud to have someone of African descent in the White House. Double standard much? But for the record, the president still isn't claiming these jerks. He's just not ready to diss an entire race, his own race, because of the stupid actions of a few. There is one other possibility as to what could be behind this former Obama supporter marching with the white makes right folks. Maybe Kessler really was a hardcore Obama supporter and he was truly a supporter of neutrality. But let's face it, 8 years of dealing with the Obamas could make anyone swear off an entire race. They say that once you go black you don't go back, but it looks like Kessler proved that wrong. Either that or he's a liberal double agent. You decide.
George Soros, the big foundations, and large corporations have spent over $1 billion in the last 8 years fomenting racial division in this country. They have been pushing it as hard as they can, trying to get a white backlash against it to bring in a race war in America, out of which we will see the right of free assembly basically abolished. And what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia yesterday is now bringing that about. This thing is synthetic. And anybody that buys into it, I don't care what color you are, is a chump and a moron. The white nationalists who hate people who aren't white are idiots, and I decry it. But I decry the media even more that covers for the other idiot, moron, conditioned racist of Antifa funded by George Soros and others.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. Above all else, we must remember this truth. No matter our color, creed, religion, or political party, we are all Americans first.
Americans are sick and tired of spin. They're tired of one-sided reporting. Here's the facts. I've protested the KKK and Aryan nations personally, going back over a decade ago, 15 times or so.
Yeah, the toothless white trash and their federal Gestapo controllers are not welcome here in Central Texas where the real patriots reside.
But just because I don't like those racist moron organizations doesn't mean then I endorse the leftist Antifa, which is the most anti-white, anti-Western, anti-capitalist, frothing, violent, hateful groups I've ever seen. So the globalists are going to look for opportunities like this to have clashes between different groups that are angry at each other, to use that crisis to then say we've got to restrict free speech across the board so that things like this don't happen again. So that's why Americans are enraged and freaked out. They're not racist, they're not in the KKK, but then they've been tolerant and open, and we've completely converted America to not being white. And then we're told by the Democrats, oh, guess what? Whites are inherently evil.
I've actually been labeled a racist and a white supremacist. I've been told several times that I'm not allowed to speak because I'm white.
Saying that we need weekends at major colleges with no whites, and whites can't go to the park, and whites need to say they're guilty and evil. When individuals have done nothing wrong, 99% of whites don't even have any slave owners in their ancestry. Meanwhile, the black nationalists run off and worship Islam when it had the biggest slave trade of blacks ever. But I'm not going to go through a whole history lesson here. Donald Trump's being criticized for criticizing both sides, saying both sides came looking for trouble and hate is dumb. And we should love each other and come together and take care of our veterans and take care of our old people and make America great again. And talk about the love in the room. But CNN read headlines that he didn't decry racial attacks or he didn't do enough. And they don't even quote where he actually said in his statement that we should love each other. That's beyond saying be tolerant, but we should love each other.
We must love each other, respect each other, and cherish our history and our future together. So important. We have to respect each other. Ideally, we have to love each other.
This is what we continue to deal with, though, is the globalists want to balkanize the country, promoting racism, promoting racial division, promoting that whites are inherently evil, the opposite of what Martin Luther King said. Don't judge folks off what color they are, but off how they act and what they do. Well, let's listen to Martin Luther King when he says that, because you go out and you go to one of these events and you neutrally sit there and watch what people in black outfits with masks beating people up, pepper spraying them, hitting them in the head with bike locks, you name it, are doing. And it is simply incredible. They continue to attack over and over and over again. And when they assaulted a female and male reporter for InfoWars, the police laughed about it and said, now this is an unlawful assembly. You can't come through here. You got to go right through there with a bunch of fences and the police marching them right in to cause the confrontation so CNN could have the headline, white supremacist, white nationalist, cause violence, when you can call the white nationalist misled, idiot, racist, just like the Antifa people. But you cannot sit there and say that they initiated the violence when clearly you watch any of the films, it's Antifa doing it, not just there, but all over the country. But to be clear, so the controlled corporate fake news cannot misrepresent what I've said, I decry the racist elements that set up this event and that went there, walking right into a trap with the mayor, who's a known Democratic Party operative, 80+% voted for Hillary Clinton. The police marched them in, said you can demonstrate here, kettled them in, and then laughed. We have video of this, of our reporters being pepper sprayed in the face and the police laughing about it.
Yeah, he just got struck with pepper spray by some irrational...
a liberal helping him. We're not all like this.
No, you see, the guy that attacked him is not a liberal. He's a Marxist. There's a difference.
Again, Americans are sick of the deception. They're sick of the spin. They're tired of the lies. Most Americans watched Trump's speech and heard him say we need to love each other and come together and racism is horrible. But then they see CNN saying Trump didn't decry racism. People know they're being lied to. And the globalists and social engineers need to understand people see through what you're doing. You may get some idiot white students to go lead, mobs of minorities believing they're battling the evil KKK. And you may get scared whites, to actually become more racist and join the other side and to have these moronic clashes. But the general public, regardless of what color they are understanding that the globalists are exploiting human populations everywhere. And that the real threat is robotics replacing humans and the global police state and these wars and authoritarian systems like Islam. That's why the globalists are so desperate. That's why they're trying to lie about what's really happening here. But all of us need to understand this was orchestrated. The facts are in. The videos are posted unedited to Infowars.com. Hours of it. Our reporters were witnesses to it. The police were ordered to stand down. They told our reporters they were. They allowed the Antifa to attack peaceful reporters, not just the white nationalists and other groups that were there. But the bigger issue is this. They're now branding the alt-right, Hillary created that term, as anybody that opposes the establishment, and then taking one little rally that only part of it was actually white supremacist, and then implying that if you demonstrate or stand up for American sovereignty or against the Democrats or against Soros, you're a racist. This attempt to guilt Americans into giving up their sovereignty, giving up their liberty, giving up our free market, or will be called racist, will fail, just as it's been failing over and over again. Because the Democratic Party, CNN, MSNBC, anyone that opposes them, they call racist. And they don't even show proof when they say it. And people are sick of this, and they're angry about it. And they're not going to be whipped into submission. Humanity is coming together. And that's the message we need to understand here. And that's the message that Donald Trump put out. The events in Charlottesville have been investigated as the president called for. And we now know it was a false flag manipulated by the Democratic Party, the mayor, the police, their Antifa hordes, George Soros funding, and useful idiot white supremacists that wanted publicity and played into this time bomb.
Are you part of any foundations? Have you ever worked for the feds? Were you part of Occupy? Were you an Obama supporter?
At one time, I supported Obama. I regret it now. I did not see the error of my ways until about 2 years ago when the shootings started happening and they were blaming everything on the racist police at that time. And I knew that the crime statistics were off.
Some leftist groups, Anglos, black, white, Hispanic, Jewish, they go out and do false flags. Most of these attacks are false flags. And so I'm saying here you are, a well-spoken guy that's part of Occupy. That's deep globalist liberal ideology. Then you're part of Obama support. And then suddenly you realize you can't beat the nationalist patriot movement that's going to bring everybody together with the leftist ideology that is racist against minorities and wants to control them. You couldn't defeat them that way, and so you went and set all this up, and it was all perfectly ready and timed and meant to cause this to try to bring down Trump. Well, Jason Kessler was the leader of the white nationalist rally that he called Uniting the Right. I'll tell you point blank, I don't agree with what he did.
Thank you, and God bless America.